Parris gone. Think of how this was described to us. We cannot be for certain what happened. We won't know until all of the authorities have completed their work. But I can only report to you what has been reported to us by eyewitnesses and authorities. And that is that this cafe was packed. You heard the description, like Greenwich Village or the East Village in New York City, with 12 bars on a block, as our witness described it. And gunmen inside with masks on, standing and firing from all directions as it was described to us. And then people flooding for the doors. Imagine if you were not hit, or if you were hit and wounded, but you could still move. You would, and you would head for the streets, which they did. And in the aftermath of all of it, this is one snapshot of what happened in one place of 6 across Paris that are now confirmed by police. We're no longer relying on the Agence French Presse or Reuters news agency or anyone else. The French authorities now confirm to the world there were 6 attack sites tonight in Paris, 6 of them. Coordinated attacks, almost simultaneous, but not quite. The first attacks happened to draw, it is believed, the media, or the police, the authorities most likely, to the scene, and then the attack on the theater. The attack on the theater that left 118 people at least dead, and with the 6 sites total, 140 killed across the city, with many more injured, and a death toll that will no doubt rise. And unprecedented happening since then. The controlling of the borders, the mandatory curfew for the first time since 1944, the French president putting in a state of emergency, establishing martial law, and on the Champs-Élysées at the Eiffel Tower, in the City of Lights, this. The Eiffel Tower went dark tonight. And I know we have video of it. It's in BAT 10. This is a vine loop. It is lit and then goes dark tonight. The curfew is in place. There's no reason for anyone to be out. And the Eiffel Tower is dark. The hospital service says medical personnel are reporting to work on their own accord. The Paris hospital service says medical personnel are reporting to work on their own accord. Medical personnel work in shifts because you can't work all the time. And that particular dispatch with the Dateline Paris from Associated Press reminds me of the firefighters who ran to the building after the attacks of 9/11. Not ones who had a shift, but ones who looked at the television and watching the Today Show and saw that the Twin Towers were on fire. And because they were firefighters, they went south. And so many of them lost their lives that day. And we mourn them, and we pray for their families, and we pray that the authorities in Washington and our leaders will put in place medical privileges for them for the rest of their lives, so that their wounds can be treated, so that their cancers can be treated. And today we learned that Paris hospital services say that personnel are reporting to work, quote, of their own accord, because Paris was under attack tonight, and Paris is still on high alert at this hour. And we wait for further word from authorities and police services as we work to learn whether the 5 who were killed tonight are all that there are left. For we know that the gunman who first fired in that cafe where we just saw that gruesome picture, we know that those gunmen, to our knowledge from police, are unaccounted for, as Fox reports this hour. The authorities do not know where they are. We know that the gunmen who were inside the theater, who, according to witnesses, threw grenades at the patrons, we know that they are all dead. We don't know by what means, but we know they're all dead. And we know from witness after witness that they shouted words about Syria and Allahu Akbar. And we know that the days ahead are going to be very difficult, even as those who escaped off these ladders. Remember the story from being on the roof. Some of these, no doubt, are those. Some of these had been inside that theater for those hours, watching first the concert, then watching the gunmen, and then eventually were able to escape down those ladders after the 5 explosions as described to us by police, and a death toll of 118. And how did the French people respond? What are they doing now in the middle of the night?